All right, listen. If you're the kind of woman who can walk into a room, clock the vibe in 2 seconds, and still somehow end up second guessing yourself because a man is smiling in your face, this one is for you. Because I'm tired. Tired of watching women get guilt tripped into lowering their guard for men who swear they're the good guys, while women are the ones out here carrying the consequences. And before the not all men choir warms up, congrats. Nobody said all men, but women don't have the luxury of playing Russian roulette with their safety and calling it being open-minded. The data isn't cute, and it's not up for debate. Nearly 1 in 2 women have experienced sexual violence involving physical contact in their lifetime, and about 1 in 4 have experienced rape or attempted rape. Hey lovelies, this is Janelle, the relationship coach behind the Successful Invisible, and I'm here today to bring you another episode of Ish I Saw on TikTok. It's about men and how, they benefit from it, so they need to speak on it. Male privilege, safety, and silence. So here's what we're going to do today. We're getting women back to trusting their instincts, setting boundaries without apologizing, and learning how to clock defensiveness, control, and entitlement early, before you're 6 months deep, and explaining away behavior you would have side-eyed on day one. And if you want my step-by-step vetting scripts, the what to ask, the what to watch, and the how to exit clean when a man starts spiraling because you ask a basic question, come join my coffee coaching community. It's soft support, big sister energy, and high standards without you having to become a private investigator or a therapist for a grown man.
Mom, but there's also privileges that come with being a man. Facts. And we have to acknowledge the privileges that we have as a man, that we don't have to worry about like sexual harassment. Unfortunately, rape, like those aren't things we think about. Women go to the club, you ain't nobody trying to roofie you, nigga. Yeah. And take advantage of you. If you go in a club right now and it was me and you, let's say me and you, we go to the club, we walk in there, bitch, nothing but women. Right. We're gonna be like, shit, let's do it. Hey, let's do it. Hey, it's a good night. First of all, is this for the public? Yeah. How do we get here? How do we get this luxury? Yeah. There's nothing but women here? Mm-hmm. If a woman and her homegirl walk in the club is nothing but men, that's a dangerous situation for them to be in. I'm almost tired of like this idea that we have where it's like white people saying there's a war on white people, or white people are being victimized, or white people need to unite. It's like the black men kind of get into the same bags as white women sometimes, where we don't want to take accountability for our actions or the actions of our brothers. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You may not harass women. You may know how to take rejection. The majority of men that most women deal with do not. Yeah. And you are accountable for that as well. Because I don't got time to figure out which white people are nice, which white people aren't racist, or da-da-da-da-da. I have to go on the actions of the group. Right. The group as a whole and the history of that group as a whole tells me that they are a danger to me and they are not to be trusted. Right. And if you can understand that as a black man and your stance towards white people, then you should absolutely be able to understand women's stance towards you. Mm-hmm. It's not a war on you waged by women. Actually, the war get a little thicker when we start talking about it from the perspective of a woman and the greater society of racism and white supremacy being waged against black people, and then the patriarchal society being waged against women. So they have to deal with two elements. One of those elements we don't have to think about, and honestly, we're perpetuated. And it's perpetuated against us young to look at women as objects. Right. You know, to look at women only through the lens of a sexual desire and not as the human being that they are. And when you understand how to deal with women on a human level, you understand how much women will enrich your life. Amen. You may not harass women. You may know how to take rejection. The majority of men that most women deal with do not. Yeah. And you are accountable for that as well. Because I don't got time to figure out what...
Y'all are missing the mark. Deontay is not saying anything crazy. He's speaking very clearly and it makes total sense. I'm going to need everybody to get on board because it's getting kind of annoying. Like, do we not know the definition of the word intersectionality? Did that word just leave the chat altogether? Like, is that what's happening now? All of a sudden, this is what I'm saying. The internet is just full of people asking for other groups to be accountable, but then also being incapable of accountability for their own things. That is quite literally what this is again. Like the obvious intersect. Look, I'm gonna just break it down very easily for you. As black men, we have a certain adverse reaction to police, right? Not because we just dislike police because of who they are, because of the history and pattern of harm, actual harm police have done towards black men, right? Like we understand that interaction, so we have a certain reaction when a police car pulls up behind us, right? We all know this. So what I'm saying is, if you know that as a black dude, how do you not understand him saying women have a set of biased behaviors and reactions they have to men because so many men are terrible? Doesn't mean you are. So when he's saying you're accountable for that, he says you gotta eat that. You got to go out and know that they don't trust you upon meeting you. And then you have to deal with that. It's not their fault that they don't trust you individually, but also it's not every, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying, guys. This isn't that crazy. This is not that crazy, right? Like, every group just doesn't like to hear the truth about themselves. It's very hard to do. I understand that. It's called the art of detachment. Psychologically, y'all just going to have to let that go. If we all did that, we would be so much better off. We can understand this as men. I made it easy, right? Women don't apologize. Women won't listen to that if I said that on a video. My video would do no numbers. Not because it's not true, but just they don't like to hear that shit about themselves. So like, it's what it is. This is just another example of that, but y'all need to understand. You're accountable because as a man, you look like a dude who could just be a creep. That's not your fault, but you can't take it out on the other person. Like, for what? Just be less of a creep. It actually makes it that much easier for you to meet women and interact. Like, they can very obviously tell when you're not a loser, but y'all all walk around already upset, just like all the women are walking around already upset, and now everybody fucking mad, talking about, you don't talk no more, I don't even want to try. I don't even have to try. I will walk outside every day and meet someone if I wanted to, just because I'm not a fucking weirdo. And I don't have to prove that outwardly, it just is obvious. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Over the past few days, I've been watching and listening to all the discourse going back and forth about this whole black men should be accountable for the majority of black men's actions when they're doing harmful things when it comes to dealing with women. And in my mind, I do think that men have a certain sense of responsibility when it comes to men in their friend groups, the men that they frequent, the men that they hang around, having these types of interactions with women and making sure that they're speaking up and having conversations with them and letting them know when things aren't right and things aren't cool. Now, I don't think, nor do I know if this would stop these individuals from doing these things, but I do understand the need for these things and these conversations to happen within certain male friend groups. But for me, I think there's a portion of this conversation that's missing, and I haven't heard anybody speak on it, and maybe they have, and I just haven't come across a video yet. And I'm gonna preface this by saying that I do not believe that the majority of black men are out there harming women, but let's say that I decided to concede that it was the majority of black men doing this to women. I would assume that the majority of these men doing these things are considered to be adults, and they've been on this planet and within this society for quite some time, so they should know right from wrong. Now, I think that these men do understand and know that the things that they're doing are wrong and can be seen as harmful to women because of the responses that they're probably getting when they are interacting with women. Now, it could be a situation where they're interacting with women and 15% of the time they're getting a positive response and 80% of the time they're getting a negative response. But it still stands that they understand that what they're doing, women just simply don't like it, yet they're still doing it. Now, as I stated before, I do believe that men do have a level of responsibility when it comes to being friends with people like this. You have to call it out. Now, let's say that after this, more men are having these conversations because whether you want to believe it or not, men do have these conversations. It may not be enough, but men do have these conversations. Now, let's say that more men are having these conversations with these men in their friend groups, right? The men in their friend groups that know that the things that they're doing is wrong. Now, let's say the conversation goes down, the friend that's doing these things, they don't stop. So at that point, you as the man decide to excommunicate this guy from your friend group. You shame him, you shun him, and you get them out of there. After you shamed them, you shunned them, you've gotten them out of your friend groups, what, if they don't stop, is next? And I think that is one thing that's missing from this conversation, because when you start thinking about being accountable for these types of individuals, you have to understand that there is a hard stop to that accountability. And really the hard stop would be having a conversation with them and getting them out of their friend groups if they don't stop doing what they're doing. Now, you can talk about things like prison if the act is bad enough. But in those situations, my question would be, what about recidivism? Because I don't think that when people go to prison, I don't think that they change a great deal of the time, because they end up going back in at very high rates. But outside of prison, the next step would be to delete them from this realm of existence. And if we're talking about the majority of black men, surely you're not saying that you want to get most of these guys, because that means the men that you deem as good are going to have to be the ones going out and ridding the world of these people. And then at that point, they no longer become good. And not only do they not keep their medal of honor and their medal of being good, they may end up being put in prison. So now you're left with no men at all. And that's clearly an exaggeration, but you can see where this is going. So for me, the bottom line is making sure that if you're in these types of friend groups, which you shouldn't be, but if you're in these types of friend groups, or you have one or two friends that do things that are harmful to women, make sure you're speaking up on these issues. Make sure you're calling them out on things that you can clearly see is going to be something that's harmful to women, and having these conversations. And if they don't change, make sure you're getting them out of the friend group. But I think one of the most important things that we can do is, for those of us that don't do these things and we have children, especially sons, making sure we're having conversations with them and explaining to them the difference between right and wrong, and also letting them know what they should and they shouldn't be doing to and around women.
So let's get straight to it. If you have a problem with Deontay Kyle, prepare to be sick of me. Most of you had no issues with this man when he called out systemic racism. Then all of a sudden there's a shift of energy when he says that all men should be held accountable for the detriment of manhood as a whole. I have no issues with that statement. As a matter of fact, I endorse it. I've had this very same conversation with a coworker during the election. I explained to him that the unwarranted disdain that some black men have towards black women is directly rooted in racism. Sometimes our negative energy towards them can be a direct reflection of the negative energy that was projected towards us by racist white people. I've made this argument on more than one occasion, and it seems like a lot of people can't connect the dots, and maybe it's because they just don't know their history or never cared to look into it. Look at the $135 billion budget in law enforcement, or the $557 billion budget in guns and ammo. I'm willing to bet money that nobody thought that women were a maximum threat when these budgets were approved. If they say they don't feel like they're in a safe space and we say we care, then the first step is to take how they feel into consideration. And I do not care who thinks I'm pandering, because when you defend your boys, what are you doing?
Listen, how you feel about the Deontay Kyle discourse, to me, as a man, really boils down to your answer to the question, are we leaders or are we not? Are we leaders or are we not? Because leaders take accountability for the group, for the team. Like, you can't act like your goal, which I hope it is your goal, is community building community for black folks, but then also be like, well, shit, I got me.
Let's
me and mine. Fuck everybody else.
My favorite part of all of the content.
Not every woman is out with the man at all times. He said they can't go outside. Let's stay with a man.
Express what I feel
your mama, your
about
auntie, your grandma, your sister, your cousin,
over.
daughter
So,
ain't always out with a man. So what, they just for the wolves? Fodder? If they die, they die at that point? No. No, it don't work like that. And nobody's saying also, before you go there, nobody's saying you got to die for these random women. Matter of fact, please don't. But you'd be surprised how much or how far a little bit of resistance would go. It could be as simple as, hey, Miss Lady, you straight? Me and my old lady over here. Come take a drink with us. To get her out of a situation. You see what I'm saying? If you see a man moving weird, moving aggressive, say something. That's all. That's all. That's all. You can't be like, not all men, not all men. But then when it's your daughter, you're like, well, you know how men are. No, you can't. No.
Deontay Kyle is not a panderer. Men just can't take accountability or criticism at all. They just can't. He broke it down very well in the video, relating the things that women go through dealing with men to the things, you know, as black men, we go through dealing with white people. He broke that down very, very well. And yet you guys are coming out to call him a panderer because you don't have any understanding. Men cannot take criticism. The biggest problem on this earth is men. In any field, any area, it's a man. That's why the argument, it's all men till it's no men, doesn't affect me, because I understand the history of how us men as a gender, right, or smex, have treated women. Like, you can look up the history of how women have dealt with men. It hasn't been in their favor, fam. So I don't understand how y'all getting mad at what he said. I listened to the video 3 times. He didn't say anything wrong. But again, as men, bro, we just can't take any type of criticism as a group. Everything's pandering. Anything that calls out men is pandering. First of all, that's not how you use the word, but since y'all want to use that word, anything that calls out men is pandering. Oh my goodness, but let a man get to dogging out women and calling them all kind of names on the panel or on a goddamn video. Boy, I tell you, y'all will be like, that's truth. Miss me with this nonsense.
You may not harass women. You may know how to take rejection. The majority of men that most women deal with do not.
Yeah.
And you are accountable for that.
I want to take a break for the military content just for a second so I can speak on this video. For all y'all who don't know, man, that's Deontay Kyle, host of the Grits and Ed podcast, which is one of the best, if not the best podcast out right now. And he is one of the best podcasters, man. I call him Mr. Don't Miss because, I mean, this dude has had hit take after hit take after hit take after hit take consistently for I don't know how long. Now, that video right there is no different than everything else that I agree with him about. I think we confusing accountability with responsibility. And that's why so many men are looking at what he said as, oh, well, I'm not accountable for whatever every other man do. No, you're not. But you as a man can acknowledge and be aware of the fact that these violent things that happen to women are very well true. It's not a small number how y'all want to pretend to be like, well, it ain't everybody. Like, you can go ask any random woman right now. Have she ever been assaulted, harassed, abused, verbally, physically, and all that? And they would tell you that they have been in some type of capacity. But yet, women have all these experiences, but yet, I haven't done anything. My friends haven't done anything. Who's doing it then? And that very well may be the case that you or your circle has nothing to do with the crimes and violence against women. But it's not wrong for you to be man enough and acknowledge that these are very real things that happen. So you can't knock a woman for generalizing men if every experience they ever had with a man was negative. You can't fault them for approaching you different, dealing with you different because of their past experiences. And I want to tell you how I know that you can't, because you do the same thing. It's crazy to me that a man tell y'all to be accountable for other men's actions and things like that. And you say, well, it's not me, blase, blase. But yet, it ain't a time that y'all don't get on this app and talk about well, all women or these women these days. Y'all don't never say some women, a few women. Y'all think every woman is the negative version of what you think they are. Y'all think every woman has no value outside of the sexual aspect of them. And listen, just because you love your mama, your sisters, your daughters and all that, don't mean that you don't hate women. You just love family. So we got to stop acting like, man, as men, it makes us weak to be aware and accountable of the things that are going on with women, the violence. And let me tell y'all something, man. As a man, it does not make you a panderer. It does not make you a simp. It does not make you weak. It does not make you a basher of men for you to acknowledge, and for you, it doesn't make you all of that to be aware, acknowledge, speak up for, advocate for, and protect women. Because if anything, it makes you more of a man, because a lot of guys out here aren't the protectors that they claim to be. Because when it comes to protection, you can't put stipulations and conditions on there. You can't move the goalpost every time it's about protecting women. Because it's easy to say, well, if it ain't my wife or my daughter or my kids, I ain't got nothing to do with it. But how can you as a man be out in public, see a woman being abused verbally or physically, and not do nothing, not even say something, not even attempt to be like, hey, bro, that's a little too much, and still be able to go home, look at your wife and your daughter in the eyes and still feel like a man?
Let's jump into my favorite part of all of the content I post on YouTube. And that's just my thoughts, where I get to kind of express what I feel about whatever we have read or gone over. So let's get into it. Y'all know how I like to do whenever I put together these videos. I like to come up with 5 salient or poignant points that came up from me as a relationship coach that I would like to impress upon you, my lovely listeners. So let's jump into it. Point number 1, your safety calculus isn't paranoia. It's pattern recognition. A lot of men love to say, not all men. And sure, technically, we all know that's true, right? We know every single man is not a predator. However, women aren't walking around with a spreadsheet trying to personally verify which man is safe in real time. That is not reasonable or logical or sane. Women are responding to patterns because the consequences of being wrong are far too high. And if anybody wants to play dumb about why women move like that and need to continue to move with high level of caution, the numbers are a reality check. Nearly 1 in 2 women have experienced sexual violence involving physical contact in their lifetime, and about 1 in 4 have experienced rape or attempted rape. And this is according to the CDC. So when women act with caution, that's not an insult to a man's ego. And if he takes it as such, he needs to do some self-reflection. That's her nervous system doing its job. It's also her intuition, her woman's intuition, keeping her safe. It's also her gut, which is actually the first brain, letting her know that she is in an unsafe or a potentially unsafe situation. So coaching emphasis I want to bring up here is that if a man who takes women's caution personally is not an emotionally safe man, which he isn't, he is a man who lacks the understanding or willingness to see things from a perspective that women have traumas, that women have gone through things, and that women are operating from a point of pattern recognition. He is somebody who also lacks maturity, and he will never be someone who can self-reflect about how things in the world work outside of himself. So it is actually a dead giveaway on 2 fronts that he is not a safe man that you should want to pursue a relationship with. Point number 2. The accountability conversation is really about leadership and social responsibility. And for as loud as men scream, especially black men, scream about being leaders, they do not want to be accountable, because leading in social responsibility is very important when you're talking about a grown man and how he moves around the world. Some men hear accountability and think it means you personally committed the harm. No, that's not the point. The point is you benefit from being part of a group that women must approach very cautiously. So you don't get to be offended by precautions women take to protect themselves. It's the same logic black men already understand when it comes to moving through systems with long histories of harm, i.e., when they encounter the police. They're responding to a pattern. Their body responds in a certain way. Their level of alertness goes up. They probably have shortness of breath. They're on high alert. They're looking around. Their ears are open. Even if the police aren't coming directly for them, if they are in the vicinity, a black man's reflexes and responses in his body are going to ratchet up. Why? Because of a long history and pattern of the police abusing their authority against black men. So this is why it's especially a pain in the ass when black men do it. They understand it perfectly. They just do not like this same logic being applied to them as a man. So it's not about lack of understanding. When a woman responds to a pattern, that's not an exception. That is her operating in a very closed circuit of survival, right? And it's not a bad thing. And it's not a war on men. Like I said, it's survival. So a coaching emphasis that I really want to bring about here is watch how a man responds when you set a boundary. If he turns it into women hate men, he's telling you he's not safe to disagree with. Any man that's not safe to disagree with, baby, get away from that man. Just nod and get out of his purview as easily and swiftly as possible. Be safe in the extraction of your person, please. Because he is telling you he wants to overrule your need for safety and boundaries for his comfort and ego. Point number 3, intersectionality matters because many women are carrying multiple layers of risk at once. If you're a woman dealing with misogyny and racism, i.e. a black woman, your daily safety math is layered. Black women experience, myself included, something very unique. It's called misogynoir, hatred of women and hatred of black people. That's not making it about race because some of the biggest instigators and perpetrators of misogynoir are black men. And that's reality. The framework for understanding overlapping systems of harm and how they compound is literally what intersectionality was named for. So when men dismiss women's caution as bias, what they're often dismissing is lived experience and the fact that some women are managing more than one kind of vulnerability at the same time. And a lot of black men, I hate to say this, want to dismiss black women's unique lived experience because they're coming from the point of they're a man. So there are certain things that they've never had to worry about. But once again, they do indeed understand it, just as white women understand certain things. And when they refuse to see it and deal with it and really hear what you're saying or understand the way you're moving, it's out of choice for their own comfort and ego and just a lack of respect for you. So a coaching emphasis I want to bring about here is that a man who can't hold nuance will punish you for being complex. Do not volunteer to be simplified. And at our big ass grown ages, if you are dealing with a man who can't understand nuance, he probably lacks the level of intelligence that you need to have a fruitful, healthy relationship with. Please, once again, exit stage left. He is an unsafe man for you to be dealing with. Point number 4, men who are actually safe don't get defensive. They get clear. So here's what an emotionally safe man and emotionally safe masculinity actually looks like. It's not loud and it's not performative. It's not about I am an alpha. And if we know the truth about that, that's been debunked by the person who actually came up with the term years ago. It's about consistent respect, emotional regulation, and the ability to hear women without trying to win, and an ability to adjust one's approach when they are given the feedback that a woman is uncomfortable with maybe something that they're doing, right? Or that they have new information about. The men who spiral when questioned, see, here we go. You're attacking men. You're bitter. You've been brainwashed. All those things, right? And many more sayings. They're telling you they're committed to control, coercion, not connection. And controlling ideologies tend to normalize manipulation tactics like minimizing harm, blaming women, and reframing basic questions as disrespect. Any man that's uncomfortable with you asking a question, you need to get away from that man because there's something wrong. He's a ticking time bomb, and he basically does not like to be honest about probably his lack of success and a whole bunch of other things going on in his life. Get away from that man. That pattern is recognized in domestic violence. Understand that. And domestic violence education around power and control dynamics. Coaching emphasis I want to bring about here is if calm questions make him agitated, imagine what real conflict will do. And also think about this. If you're on a first date and you're out in public and this man is getting agitated, trying to get loud, trying to get disrespectful, how the hell does he act behind closed doors? Girl, run. Exit stage left. Once again, unsafe man. Point number 5, vet men by how they handle other men, not just how they perform for you. A lot of men will respect women, air quotes, in front of women and say nothing when their homeboys are moving foul or when they say something disrespectful about women. But the culture doesn't shift through speeches. It shifts through peer accountability and consistent behavior. If a man cannot say, nah, homie, that ain't cool, that's weird. If he can't intervene, if he can't correct harmful talk, if he's always protecting male ego and always on his bros before hoes at a woman's expense, then he's not a safe partner. He is a polished bystander. And I think more than a few men fall into this category. They strongly believe, oh, because I'm not hitting women and I'm not cheating on women and I'm not doing this. They think that they are one of the good guys. No, if your main dude that you hang out with is doing all this shit to women and you're still hanging out with him and you have not confronted that behavior and really demanded that he do better or y'all can't continue to be friends, you're just as bad as him. You are an enabler, right? You think his abuse is okay. And yes, prevention work consistently emphasizes that men who do this to other men kind of press them, hold them accountable when they're in spaces just amongst themselves. It does shift social norms. It helps teach healthy relationship skills, and it helps with them engaging in behaviors that are, in the long term, going to reduce sexual violence, according to a study from the University of Richmond. A coaching emphasis I'd like to say here is don't date a man whose loyalty to male comfort is stronger than his commitment to what is right. That also says a lot about his moral compass, a lot about his level of integrity, and a lot about his character, right? I don't do spineless men, and I don't want any woman that isn't within the sound of my voice to do spineless men. If he can't stand up to his homeboy, if he can't stand up for what's right, I'm not asking everybody to be the type of activist that we've seen in the past, and we know in a historical context, most men aren't built for that. And I do understand that. However, if he is unable to stand in integrity and correct things in the moment in his sphere of influence, he is a coward. He is not the man that's going to protect you because he can't protect himself. And he's willing to be in the company of men who are constantly doing things to bring harm to women and enable that behavior, right? Just so he won't be without this friend. He's an unsafe man himself. Move away from him. At the end of the day, women aren't asking men to be perfect. Women are asking men to be real, emotionally responsible, socially aware, and able to hold boundaries without punishment. If a man can't handle the fact that women have to be cautious, then he's not ready to date women. He's ready to be centered, and he probably needs to be dating a man. So one of the things that I always tell men who, this is just a side note, that say, dumb shit like, oh, women are being paranoid, women are hating, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, have you ever been, and most of these men, I live in the South now, do own firearms, right? And then I ask him, what happened? What was one of the first things you learned? Probably the first thing you learned when you went to a gun safety course, right? To get your license for your state, etc. Not all states requirement, but any man who has a level of understanding of respect for the damage, harm, and fatalities guns can cause is going to go to safety courses and training. And they were like, well, they told us, you always treat a weapon like, it's loaded. I said, exactly. If you go in somewhere and you see a gun, if someone has a gun, if someone pulls a gun, the first thing you need to always assume when you see that weapon, right, is that it is loaded and the safety is off. You need to always move with maximum caution around that weapon. And they said, yeah, that makes sense. I said, and women need to approach and deal with men the same way. We don't have the luxury of understanding, this one is actually a man with some sense and integrity. This one is crazy, but faking and covering it. This one is that. Has led to many women's death. And a lot of men get offended. I said, but it's the same result. Death If a woman does not move with high level of caution and really listening to her intuition and her friends around her that actually care about her, she can end up dead. So let me know your thoughts below. I'm curious to know if you've had these conversations with men that you've dated, or when you first met a man, if he got, snippy, uncomfortable, woo when you've asked him some really basic questions. And that's the whole point, sis. Clarity is protection. You don't need to give it time to figure out if a man respects women, respects boundaries, and respects you. If he can't handle basic accountability, if he gets defensive when you ask normal questions, if he acts like women's safety is overreacting, that's not a misunderstanding. That's a preview. It's also data. So please hear me and hear me now. You are not too guarded. You are not too much. You are responding appropriately to a world where women, especially Black women, have to do intense risk assessments in real time every day because your life does depend on it. And the right man won't punish you for being wise. He'll make it easy to trust him because his behavior will be consistent, considerate, and grown. And always remember that only predators and assaulters get upset when you have a boundary, okay? They're people who are looking to violate and take advantage of you. So huge red flag, immediate extract yourself from the situation safely. And if you want help putting this into practice, come join my exclusive coaching community on Coffee. Inside, you'll get my vetting questions, red flag translation guide, and copy-paste exit scripts for shutting things down clean. No spiraling, no explaining, no debate club. See the link in the description box below.